Assignment 4. We are moving on to standard form now, which is the third and final for us form of a line. Not final, but for us, this is the last one we're doing this year. So learning targets, you need to be able to calculate the intercepts of a line, use the intercepts to plot a line, and convert linear equations from slope-intercept into standard form, or from standard form into slope-intercept. So we should be able to go both ways. So here we have example 1, which is to put the following equation of a line into slope-intercept form, simplifying all fractions. So remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. We need to get the y alone on the left-hand side. So whatever x term there is, that needs to be the first thing that we move. This one has a positive 12x. So to move it to the other side, we're going to do the inverse, which is to subtract 12x. And then on the other side of our equation, to balance it, we subtract 12x. 12 minus 12 is 0. So these are gone. That's 0. Bring down your 16y. Bring down your equal sign. In slope-intercept form, the x comes first. So when you're writing these two, put the x term first. Negative 12x plus 96. And then to get rid of the y, we need to, to solve for y, we need to get rid of the 16. Right now, this is 16 multiplied by y. If there's no mathematical symbol in between, that means multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide by 16. And then on the other side, divide that whole side by 16. 16 divided by 16 is 1. So that's how these are gone. Now we have 1y equals, we need to divide the 12 by 16. And it says simplified fractions. That means we don't want decimals. So we need to reduce 12 over 16. Those are both divisible by 4. So we get negative 3 over 4. 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So negative 3/4 x plus 96 divided by 16 is 6. All right, so here's your spot. If you want to press pause and try one of these problems, you could try this one and then resume the video and see how you did. So here we're trying to solve for y, isolate our y term. We're going to move the x first. So we're going to subtract 2x. And then on the other side, subtract 2x. 2 minus 2 is 0. So these are gone. Bring your negative 2y down. Equals. Remember not to subtract these. They're not like terms. This is a constant. This has an x variable. So you can't subtract the negative 2 from the 10 or add the negative 2 to the negative 10. So x comes first because that's what slope-intercept is. And then this is negative 2 multiplied by y. A lot of times we get people that will add 2 because they think that the opposite of a negative 2 is to add 2. But you need to really think about what operation is happening here. The 2 and the y are not being subtracted. There's no operation. That means that it automatically is multiplication in there. And the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide by negative 2 and then divide this side also by negative 2. So negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1y. Negative 2 divided by 2 is 1x. And negative 10 divided by 2, negative 2 is positive 5. Example 2, we're finding intercepts, and we did this in the class starter the other day. So remember that if you are finding whichever intercept you are solving for, you're going to put 0 in for the other one. So if I'm trying to find an x-intercept, then that means that I put 0 in for the y. So if I put 0 in for that y, I get 3x. 6 times 0 is 0. So there's a plus 0, which I don't need to write. It's unnecessary. Equals 18. And now we can solve for x. So now if we divide by 3 on both sides, x equals 6. It's important to note, though, that this says as an ordered pair. So when I was looking at the delta math, I actually got it wrong the first time because I didn't read directions carefully and I didn't write it as an ordered pair. So an x-intercept of 6 on the x-axis, if x is 6 over here, that ordered pair is 6, 0. So you have to enter it into delta as that ordered pair, otherwise you won't get it correct. It will mark you wrong. Trying to get purple. Okay, so now we're going to find the y-intercept. If we're trying to find the y-intercept, we're going to put 0 in for the other one. So we will put a 0 in for x. 2 times 0 is 0. And then negative 5y equals 8. And then divide by negative 5. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1y. 8/5 doesn't reduce. We're not going to change it to a decimal. We're just going to leave it like that. Except that we need to write it as an ordered pair. So if this is y, the x coordinate is 0 because remember we put 0 in for x. So the x coordinate is 0 and the y coordinate is negative 8/5 or 8 over negative 5. Example 3 is all graphing. So remember, I also had told you when we were working with that problem that that's how I graph most of these equations. So you actually have a couple of options. If you would prefer, you can convert that equation into slope-intercept. So example 1, we had an equation and that was in standard form and we solved for y and we got it in slope-intercept form. You could do that and then graph the same way we've been doing with the y-intercept and counting off the slope rise over run. The other option is to find the x and y intercepts and plot those and use that to graph. So if I want to find an x-intercept here, I'm going to put the 0 in for the y. So I get 2x, negative 3 times 0, because I'm going to put a 0 in for y when I want to find x. That is 0 equals 6. And then if I divide both sides by 2, I get x equals 3. Remember, an intercept means where it crosses. So that tells me that this line will cross the x-axis at 3. 1, 2, 3 on the x-axis. Then I'm going to solve for y-intercept. And to solve for the y-intercept, I put 0 in for x. So 2 times 0 is 0, minus 3y equals 6. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, and I get y equals 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. So it crosses the y-axis at negative 2. There's your 2 points. You need 2 points to graph any line. So once you have those, whoa, you can do a better job of graphing than I did. Again, maybe pause here and try one on your own. Okay, this is the same problem. Find the x and y intercepts and plot them to graph your line. So to find an x-intercept, negative 6x, we put 0 in place of the y. That means I get negative 3 times 0, which is 0, equals negative 12. Divide by negative 6. Divide by negative 6. X equals positive 2. So x is positive 2 right there. We're going to find the y-intercept. If I'm trying to solve for y, then I put 0 in place of the x. So negative 6 times 0 is 0, minus 3y equals negative 12. And then to solve for y, we divide by negative 3 and divide by negative 3 on the other side. And we get y is equal to negative divided by negative makes that a positive 4. So this line crosses the y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are my 2 points that it takes for me to graph a line. Oh, you guys, this is hard. writing on a tablet and it's hard. Okay, last thing, and I talked about this a little bit in the assignment 3 notes, is the vertical and horizontal lines. In Delta Math, you actually have to do it 2 different ways. The first way is they give you the equation and you have to graph it. The second, they give you a graph and you have to write the equation. So vertical and horizontal lines only have one variable. They either have x equals a number or y equals a number. Okay? If the equation is x equals, then that means that is that's the x-intercept. Just like up here, right? When I found like x equals 3, that means that's where it crossed the x-axis. When x equals 2, that's where it crosses the x-axis. So if x equals 4, that's where it crosses the x-axis. There is no y in this equation. That means that it will not cross the y-axis. The only way I can draw a line that will never cross this axis is if they are parallel. So that means the line x equals 4 hits the x at 4 and it will never cross the y-axis. So it has to be parallel. So then for this one crosses the y-axis. So there's going to be a y in the equation, but it never touches the x-axis. It runs parallel. It will never touch it. That means there is no x in our equation. So it does touch the y-axis. That means it's a y equals. And where does it cross? It crosses at -2. So the equation is y equals -2.